Hey, negotiators. We're going to talk about ZOPA, or the Zone of Potential Agreement today. I've heard other bloggers talk about it being a strategy or a tactic. I got to say, I totally disagree. By the time you're done this video, I think you'll agree with me that ZOPA is just an essential piece of negotiation knowledge that you need for your next negotiation, and you might already be using anyways. So in this video, we're going to talk about, just why you negotiate. We're going to talk about bargaining range. We're going to talk about resistance points. We're going to go through the zone of potential agreement, and we're going to talk about what happens when you don't have a ZOPA. So why negotiate? Why do people negotiate? People negotiate because there's something that they can accomplish together that they can't accomplish apart, right? So that's the whole thing with negotiations is you need to work with the other person. So it's got to work for both parties. Somebody winning a negotiation doesn't make any sense because ultimately you both need to have value, or one of you is not going to keep your side of the bargain. So the way we establish that is we come into bargaining ranges. No, not that kind of range. Bargaining range is the range at which you think a deal can be done and which they think a deal can be done. Now, you've got a bargaining range. You typically know going into a negotiation, what you're willing to do. Well, what your high end is, what your low end is, and you're going to go into the negotiation. Well, the other party has a bargaining range too, but theirs is secret from you. Everybody else isn't going to be like, oh yeah, here's my range. Some people may do that, but then how do you know they're telling the truth? The way that you're going to establish what their bargaining range is you're going to ask probing questions. During a negotiation, it's a conversation, right? You want to be curious about what their interests are to try and lay out, where you think their bargaining range is. When we're establishing bargaining range, I've heard other vloggers and teachers talk about walk-away points or bottom lines. I really discourage my clients and the people I teach from adopting those sort of bottom line, this is a hard line test, because what happens is you become blinded to other sources of value in the deal. There may be something else that the other party can throw in, or the way you can structure the deal that could alter your bargaining range. And if you adopt a walk away point, that's a point at which you have an instruction, go away, right? And that doesn't help the negotiation. There are certainly some negotiations you should walk away from, but in my view, if there's a chance to create value for you and for the other party, then why not continue the conversation, right? Talk is cheap. So continue to talk and see if there's a way you can structure the deal that will adjust their bargaining range or yours. So what's ZOPA? Right? We've talked about bargaining range. So you've got a bargaining range here. Your other has a bargaining range here. The point at which those two ranges intermingle or overlap is your zone of potential agreement. So that is the point at which there should be an agreement. Now, again, if there's no connection, there's no zone of potential agreement. If you can't create value through the structure of the deal or whatever, then that's just not a deal that should be done. We go right back to why are we negotiating? We're negotiating to create value. If it's not a valuable proposition for one party or the other, that's not a deal that can get done, or not a deal that should be done, because it is an objectively bad deal. But if you can get together and find a way to create that zone of potential agreement, then those are deals that should be done. How to maximize where you are in that zone of potential agreement is something that takes training and some skill to be able to find where their bargaining range is and to try and get to the top of it so you can maximize the value for you while still providing enough value to the other party to make sure that they want to do the deal. So what if you don't have a ZOPA? What if there is no zone? We talked briefly about expanding the sort of options, expanding the pie. Are there other things that can go in the deal? In a labor context, we think about parties that are collectively bargaining. They're collectively bargaining over a single issue. Well, maybe a compromise in that issue is unpalatable, but then you pull in another issue where the party can then, the party that's not happy can then benefit. And you can package things together in a way that on the totality, there is a potential agreement there. So you want to look at ways to potentially expand the deal to see if there's other things that you can add, or time structures that you can put in that make the deal doable. And again, sometimes you're never going to get there, and those aren't deals that can necessarily be done. If you really want to be sure, or if you're having trouble establishing your bargaining range or your other's bargaining range, one of the other things you can do is hire a mediator. Mediators will come in and they will help the parties establish their bargaining ranges. They will probe them to make sure that their ranges are correctly established and that they've got sort of a realistic outlook on what the negotiation is. And if a deal can be done, then they'll help the parties get it done. Yep, that's it for this review of ZOPA. If you do have any questions, you're always more than welcome to contact me, Dave at wakelymediation.com, or come check out my blog, wakelymediation.com.